I have a surprise. And
Oh.
I didn't tell Victor about this, but I clued Shane in and only a few others. And Victor is going to faint when I say the following words.
Mm.
Please help me welcome the voice of the Green Bay Packers and legendary
Hey.
football play-by-play voice and my good friend Wayne Larrivee joins me
Hey.
right now.
Hey.
How you
What's up,
doing,
Wayne?
guys?
A living legend, ladies and gentlemen.
No, not
I met
really.
this I met this fellow at Hinkle Fieldhouse, and I recognized him. And you know how you recognize somebody? Because Wayne, I got to tell you, like I told you, I love your work. I have always loved your work for the longest time. You're one of the reasons I got into doing play by play. It's just an honor to have you on the program.
Well, it's an honor to be here.
Man, how'd you get started? Who gave you the bug to get into doing play by play?
Actually, I grew up back east, and Marv Albert is the guy I heard doing the Knicks on the radio in the early '70s, and he then did the Giants, and he was doing the Rangers, and I really liked his style. I liked the way he did the games, the energy he brought, and he kind of got me hooked when I was in about a junior in high school.
Well, that's about how I got hooked because y'all know Wayne's one of the two voices that got me hooked growing up back in Chicago. The other, of course, was the late great Jim Durham. And then I hear Wayne as the television voice of the Chicago Bulls, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? And I got even more excited. How fun was that gig?
Oh, that was great. I did the Bulls for 18 years, and the first part of it obviously was part of the Jordan years,
Hmm.
and that was just a great experience. It really was. And working with Johnny Kerr for 18 years, he was fun. He was great. And no, we had a great setup. And I talked to Neil Funk, who at the time was doing radio and later did television for the Bulls. I talked to him last week for the first time in a while. We had a nice group of people together and a great team to follow.
It was so much fun. Like you said, you came in the latter part of the Jordan era, so you had games at both Chicago Stadium and the United Center, and I had the pleasure of seeing Game 2 of the finals in 1991. And for anyone that's never been to the old barn called Chicago Stadium, tell everybody how loud that joint gets, especially when Jordan does something crazy.
Well, Jim Durham, who was one of my favorite basketball announcers, also used to call it the Madhouse on Madison,
Yep.
and it certainly was. And the thing I'll always remember about that place was the locker rooms were in the bowels of this building, way downstairs.
Yes.
And I'll never forget Gus, who later became very close with Michael Jordan. He was an ex-Chicago cop, and he was in charge of lining up the media down this long hallway,
Right.
barking at us to get us in line to go into the locker room. But the other thing I remember, as when I was there as a fan, is at halftime going upstairs to the concessions or the bathrooms, and the smoke in that place, because back then everybody was smoking. Smoke in that place was you could hardly see. It was amazing. It was a great old barn.
It was
Now,
terrific.
now
It was
I got to
terrific.
interrupt you for a split second, Snowman, because what people don't realize, I've told this story before. Here in Maine, we actually used to get WGN in the early
Yep.
to mid '90s.
Yep.
So I have to say, I'm actually starstruck a little bit because this
What?
guy was actually part of my childhood.
Mm-hmm. He
So
was part.
hearing this, recounting all the great games, watching on WGN, I'm starstruck. I'll admit that right now. This is
Well,
awesome.
I got starstruck when I first heard Wayne on the radio covering the Chicago Bears on WMAQ back in the 80s. And I was a faithful listener. I'd have the television on, but I'd have the radio blasted, and my parents would come upstairs and say, "Who is that?" I said, "That's Wayne Larrivee." And my dad said, "How'd you get to know him so fast?" I heard him. I listened to him, and it's true to this day, and my career will be entering its 30th year. I still lean on what Wayne Larrivee says and does from a broadcast standpoint to um, keep me going in the game. How do you keep it going, man?
Well, when as you know, when you get into a business where you like what you do, you love what you do, you never really work a day. I mean, you
Hmm.
work, don't get me wrong. We don't just go on for 3 hours and talk about nothing. I mean, you got to
Right.
prepare, but, it's a labor, it becomes a labor of love. And then, you really never work a day in your life, essentially. So, no, it's been great. And I appreciate your comments. And they make me feel very old, by the way.
Uh,
I told y'all 1985 gave me the bug to be a broadcaster because I hear two of my all-time favorites. I hear Jim Durham doing a Bulls game, and then later on I hear Wayne Larrivee doing a Bears game. You talked about preparation, and it's something I lean on a lot. When you get ready for a Packers game, let's say it's on a Sunday and it's a noon kickoff, how does your week begin when you start to prepare for that game?
Well, the first week you're trying to get information together. I call them my spotting boards. My boards are obviously used on game day to identify players on the field and that type of thing, but they're also a way of preparing, putting the information together, doing it myself rather than going to it. A lot of guys will use a service that basically gives them their boards, all the information is on there and everything else. I find it's better for me in preparing for a game when I put the information in there myself. So, in that regard, that's what I start Monday with, getting the
Mhm.
boards together, adding to them throughout the week, and then starting to look at game tape. And I usually start on Tuesday to really delve into game tape. I look at 3 games, sometimes 4, of an upcoming opponent, and obviously review the game the Packers played as well that week. And so, you kind of put this stuff together as a process. It's a process of preparation over the course of a week. You add more stuff on Wednesday and Thursday. You go maybe to see practice, that kind of thing. You get an idea. I've lately been going on Saturdays because that's when I interview the coach for his pregame interview on Saturday. But I get into practice on Saturday morning, and it's a walkthrough, but it's a walkthrough of everything they have in the game plan on offense and defense. So, from a play-by-play standpoint, it's great practice to see because you're if you pay attention, you shouldn't be surprised the next day when they pull out that reverse or a double reverse or this, that, or the other thing. You can tell who they're going to cover, how they're going to cover them defensively, that kind of thing. So it becomes a nice aid.
It does, because when I was with Trinity International in Deerfield, Illinois, I followed the same pattern. Got the schedule way ahead of time. Monday, I started gathering my information. I email for my depth charts, and all those would come in. And like you, Wayne, I do my boards myself. I don't rely on us. I don't rely on a service. I just rely on a few Manila folders that my wife got me, and she'll help me draw everything and line everything up because I have my spotting boards, and then I also write the lineups because when I go through the lineups, I have them lined up a certain way. I have them in a certain way in the booth. And then Tuesday, just start looking at footage, looking at game tape. Come Thursday, or Friday, Thursday or Friday. Friday, if it's a home game with TIU, I would do my coach's interview and my player interviews. If it's a Thursday, if it's a road trip, I do the interviews on Thursday and have everything ready to go. And we push the button on Saturday and get going. Does your pattern change for a road game?
Not so much on a road game. Where it changes is if you have like a Thursday game, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Even a Saturday game will change it a little bit. It just ratchets it up a little bit more. So you have to work a little bit more ahead on a short week like that. But no, for a typical road game on a Sunday, that doesn't change anything.
Yeah, you mentioned the Thursday games, and you got to ratchet it up for a Thursday because that's such a quick turnaround, especially after a game completes. You only have 72 hours to get ready for the next game. So I know a lot of stuff that you usually can spread throughout the week gets crunched into those 3 days.
Right. But then you have a little time off after that. So it works both ways. But yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge on a Thursday night game because I never feel that comfortable with the material
Hmm.
that early in the week. If it was a Saturday, I'd feel a little bit better. But,
Yeah.
you get into this thing we're all creatures of habit. And that Sunday game, that's kind of where we're all at. That's the one that feels the most comfortable. Monday games are great, except that on the other end of the Monday game, you got Tuesday becomes your Monday, and
Right.
Monday and Tuesday combined with preparation, that kind of thing. So, but it all works out, and no complaints. I mean, we've got a job to do, and you do it.
How do you make your adjustments with the schedule, with your preparation schedule to the game schedule? We talked about the quick turnaround, but what if it's like a Monday night game and then the next week you play on a Sunday? How do you make your adjustments?
Well, like I said, you just I'll do some things Monday because it's a night game. Monday's a night game, so I'll usually pull some things together for the next week Monday because you're pretty well prepared for that game Monday night. You know what you're going to do. You know what your information. You've had an extra day actually with it, so I will pull some things together on Monday. Try to make it, do my prep during the week, during the day that Monday. And that way, when we get to Tuesday, it's not as big a crunch, but you're still kind of starting the process of reviewing tape and that type of thing, getting to know who the other team has coming up the following week. So I condense things a little bit, but I'll sneak in a little bit of preparation for the following week on that Monday of a Monday night game.
Packers are coming off of a division loss to the San Francisco 49ers, and I know your Packers are coming in with a chip on their shoulder this year because of the way Jordan Love ended this season. He ended on a hot streak, and then that game in Santa Clara. The Packers have got to have a chip on their shoulder coming into this season, do they not?
Well, the Packers are a very young football team. They felt very good about the things they came through last year. They started out with winning 2 of their first 3, then lost 4 in a row. Didn't win a game for over a month. And, they were able to come through that. There were some other things happening in the locker room. The trade of Rasul Douglas to Buffalo was something, because he was a veteran and a leader on that team. That was something that was tough to deal with in the locker room. They had a couple of other issues going on. Devondre Campbell was not happy. Jair Alexander was not happy. They had all these rookies and second-year receivers. And, losing 4 in a row, I've seen this a lot in 40-some years in the NFL. A young team that goes through what they did usually doesn't get it back, usually doesn't finish the way the Packers did last year. But they started to put some things together. They gained a little momentum. When the young talent around Jordan Love started to play better and Aaron Jones got healthy, that quarterback started playing really well. And that's what the whole season was based on. Can Jordan Love play? And that's what the whole season was about. And those last 8 games, we figured out he can certainly play.
Yeah, Jordan Love really turned it on those last 8 games, and you got to see up front and up close the potential of Jordan Love. And coming into this season, there's still a lot for him to prove, but the league is now on notice that Jordan Love absolutely can play and absolutely can lead this Packers team.
I think this, last year we found out if Jordan Love can play. And I'm one of these guys, I've seen too many mistakes made at the quarterback position where a quarterback comes in his first year as a starter. He's having a really good season and you think, okay, this is the guy. He's the next great guy.
Right.
And so often, as is the case with Mac Jones in New England, with the Jones in New York, both have had their moments. To be honest with you, neither one is the answer quarterback for those teams.
Right.
The Giants are holding on to their Jones a little bit longer because they gave him the huge contract.
Yep.
It takes time with a quarterback. We really didn't know about Aaron Rodgers. We thought we did. We didn't really know about Aaron Rodgers till the second half of his second season as a starter. Now, understand what happened that year, okay? He came off a very good rookie year, a lot of promise. The Packers signed him to the big contract, as they're going to do with Jordan Love. But, the litmus test is not the first year. The first year you find out, can the guy play on this level? There's no doubt Aaron Rodgers could play. Same thing with Jordan Love. Now, the second year finds out if he's the guy.
Right.
And is he the guy that you can move forward with, that you can win a Super Bowl with? That's what you find out the second year. There will be growing pains for Jordan Love. I honestly believe he is the real deal. That's my personal belief, but I'm just telling you from a football standpoint, okay? And the Packers are going to have to pay him, all right? They're going to pay
Yes.
him this year. That's
Yes.
business. That's just business. That's just the way the contract sits and everything else. That's the deal.
Yep.
But what we're really going to find out this second year is he the guy? Now, I want to take you back to Aaron Rodgers' second year in the league, 2009. Second year as a starter, I should say.
Yeah.
You know, the Packers kind of got off to a decent start. They were 4-3 heading to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was 0-7.
Yep.
This is the dead middle of the season. And they go to Tampa Bay. Rodgers throws 4 interceptions. The Packers get routed, and they're heading back to Green Bay 4-4 as to start the second half of the season in a late afternoon game against Dallas. At that point, you're sitting and saying, wow, you know, we didn't expect these kinds of growing pains after what Aaron did as a rookie.
Right.
But my point is this. There are going to be some ups and downs. You know, progress is not linear when it comes to human beings, flesh and blood in the National Football League. Following that Tampa game, Rodgers lit up Dallas. The Packers won 7 of their last 8 games. The only loss, a shootout to Roethlisberger and the Steelers in Pittsburgh. They made it all the way to the playoffs and lost a tough playoff game to Arizona and Kurt Warner in overtime. But obviously, we knew that Aaron Rodgers then was probably going to have his number retired someday in Green Bay. The following year, they win the Super Bowl. All I'm saying with Jordan Love is I think we're going to find out this year that he, in fact, is the guy. I think he's tough enough, his character, the intangibles he brings to this position. Is he going to have some ups and downs? Is there going to come a period in this next season where people are going to say, well, wow, I don't know if Jordan Love is the answer. There will be those moments, but I think he's strong enough, good enough. We know he can play physically, but he's mentally strong enough and has the character to overcome whatever setbacks there will be early this season. And I think by the end of year 2, everybody will know he's the guy.
Let me tell you, let me give you a quarterback that you happen to see up close and personal, and there's still a lot of hatred for him. His name is Brock Purdy, starting quarterback for the 49ers. From your eyes in that playoff game, what maturity did you see from Brock?
Well, you know, he was getting the Packers defense actually played very well in that game, and they did pressure the quarterback in that game. They had sacked Dak Prescott 4 times the week before, and they were getting pressure on Brock Purdy, and he was kind of, he wasn't used to that because San Francisco's offensive line is usually so good. Purdy, I thought, for 3 quarters of that game and part of the fourth quarter was kind of rattled a little bit. He was thrown off. His accuracy was not. He was not in rhythm. He didn't have his accuracy. But what I thought impressed me was the final drive that San Francisco trailing by 3. He drives them to what was a game-winning touchdown. That was impressive to me because they didn't have Deebo Samuel. He went out early in the first quarter of that game. So that was what impressed me about Brock Purdy. You know, it's funny. You know, one day I'm doing the Cubs. We're in Philadelphia. Rick Kranitz is the one of the pitching coaching observers, whatever. He's one of their gurus with pitchers. There was this young guy on the mound for the Cubs. I don't even know his name. We're 5 innings into the game. He hasn't given up a run, hasn't given up a hit. I said, Rick, what do you think? He says, I don't know what to think. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I want to see what happens when this guy has runners at the corners and less than 2 outs. That's what I want to see. How does he do then? Okay. Same thing with quarterbacks. I want to see what happens when the chips are down and they're in a tough spot. That's when they're on top and everything's flowing and everything's good. That's one thing. Okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, show me that position has to deal with so much adversity. You don't know about a quarterback until you see him in a tough spot, getting rushed hard, you know, not quite feeling it and not having the accuracy that he normally has. That's the thing about a quarterback. You find out about a quarterback in those moments. Russell Wilson in the 2014 NFC Championship game. Intercepted 3 or 4 times during that day. The Packers are winning big. Now, the Packers made some mistakes in that game in the fourth quarter that gave Seattle an opportunity to get back in. But Russell Wilson, on his worst day as a pro, you know, he was able to take advantage of those moments and get the Seahawks back to the Super Bowl. So my point is this. You find out about pitchers when they've got runners on the corners with less than 2 outs. You find out about quarterbacks when they're on a bad day, getting rushed hard, and are they able to withstand that, come back, make the plays necessary to win?
Wayne Larrivee, one of my idols and the voice of the Green Bay Packers, legendary football play-by-play voice, joining us here on Snowman in the Morning. My friend, it is an absolute honor to have you.
Hey, Snowman, enjoyed it. Great catching up with you, and all the best. Good luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Surprise!
That was freaking awesome.
Yes, it was.
My thanks to Wayne Larrivee for joining us. And you want to know the crazy part? He just confirmed this morning.
Nice.
He just confirmed this morning. So he's able to join us. Oh man. I love him.
That's awesome.
I love him dearly. Like I said, I met him at Henkel Fieldhouse in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Took a picture with him.
Nice.
I walked up to him, I shook his hand, and I'm getting ready for my game because I had a women's game with UIC and Butler. He walked by and he fist bumps me, and he goes, "If they win, you got to say my key phrase, my catchphrase. They won." And I said, "There's your dagger."
Nice.
I'm gonna cry now. The only thing that would made it better is if, damn. All right, I gotta take a break. Listen, when you meet one of your idols,
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about that when we get back. Give me a minute. I gotta compose.